Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. Tottenham Hotspur 4, Leeds United 3. Wow, what a game. In today's edition, of course, we'll be talking about Tottenham's win at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. If you don't subscribe to the channel as yet, please do hit that subscribe button. And if you are listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. Now, what a game. Going into the World Cup, Tottenham Hotspur at the moment are third. Newcastle United are still playing their game, so we may go down to fourth going into the World Cup. Spurs now have 29 points from 15 Premier League games, 9 wins, 2 draws and 4 defeats. Harry Kane, Ben Davies and Bentancur with a brace on the score sheet today. Heung-min Son was back at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium today, supporting Spurs and celebrating with his teammates at the end. Now, today I've got 3 very special guests with me to talk about the game. We've got actor Ricky Norwood back with us. Rick, how are you?
Oh my gosh, mate. I'm all over the place. I am all over the place. I'm so happy that we won and we got over the line and we got those 3 points, because those 3 points are super important to everything that we're trying to achieve at Spurs. And if we didn't win today, I don't know how far we would have fell back or how far the gap would have been between us and the top. And mate, and after the last couple of games, we all needed that. We all needed that win. I mean, there's plenty of negatives in there for us to kind of pick out and pick over. And let me tell you, I wasn't happy for the majority of the game. But thank goodness for Mr. Bentancur, because we all know that he is the reason. And he's the reason not only for Champions League, but for the league. And he just keeps stepping up his game. And thank goodness for him, mate. And thank goodness for Kulusevski as well, because we look like a different side with him in the side. So, you know, there are some positives. There was a lot of negatives. Some of the negatives that we've discussed over the first period of this season. And I know we'll get into it, but I'm just relieved, still a little bit angry, but ultimately happy that we did get those 3 points. And before we move on, I need to send a quick shout out to Dale and to Rian. So Dale, just to let you know, he's a roofer, and I've had some leaks during in the house during the during the hard rain. There's been a couple of leaks in the house, right? So we've got a roofer in anyway. He turns out he's Tottenham. Not only is he Tottenham, but his son watches every single show that you put out, Chris. And he loves it. So he was proper Tottenham. We stopped talking about the roof and we started talking about Tottenham for a little while. But he said, if he asked me, requested that I give his son a little shout out, who's an avid watcher and a big fan. So Rian, big up yourself. Come on, you Spurs.
Yes, thank you so much for watching as well. I only asked how Ricky was, and he's covered the show already.
Sorry,
Rick, before we talk about the football, you're in Panto soon. Tell everyone where they can come and see you and the dates, etc.
Yeah, so I'm in Panto. I'm in Aladdin. It's going to be at the Princess Theatre in Torquay. So obviously, if you're in London, it is far. But if you're in Torquay and there's some Torquay Spurs or some Devon Spurs or those that are down that way, more than welcome to come down. Come get yourself some Christmas tree. Say it again, Rich.
Are you in Watford?
I'm not in Watford. You know what? As soon as I put a tweet out about the Panto, Paddy, because Paddy is just terrible. But I love you, Paddy. Paddy straight away was like, "Is it in Watford?" I was like, "Oh, come on, man! Like, leave me alone! Like, come on, no." But it's not in Watford, thank goodness. It's in Torquay. So if you want to come down, we're doing the show from the 9th to the 31st of December. Tickets, you can get tickets at atgtickets.com, and tickets start from like £13. So there's plenty in there for the whole family. So you're more than welcome.
And we've also got Richard Whitehead, MBE, back with us, of course, Paralympic gold medalist and fresh back from New York, having just completed another marathon. Rich, how are you?
Yeah, a bit knackered, to be honest. It's awesome. Regarding Spurs, it's been flaky. It's been, like I said earlier, just before we came live on air, my mental health has been massively affected by Spurs recently. In the first half of every game's been crappy. Players just haven't been turning up. And I was thinking that I was going to have to come on again and another defeat. This 2 in a row until today. So after the Arsenal game, that was it. I was done, man. I was done. But no, today was ups and downs. I think that today's game summarised what Spurs are all about and where we need to improve.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, we got so many problems, and as we always know, that Spurs do play to the final whistle, especially this season. But so many cracks in the woodwork for Spurs, and it's either going to be a busy January or Conte's going to be working with those players that aren't going to the World Cup for sure.
Well, let's hope it is a very busy January. We will come on to talk about the January window later on. Tom Martin writes a comment now. Thank you, Juventus, for selling us your rejects, because I think all of us would agree. Since January, Bentancur and Kulusevski have been, our standout players. They perform week in, week out when fit. And of course, Bentancur got a brace today. Fantastic from him. Author John Chambers will be joining us at some point. He's on his way back from the game at the moment. He's just brought a new book out called Tottenham's Three Lions for Club and Country. It's a fantastic book, so we'll talk a little bit more about that when he comes on. Rick, let's come to you. What did you make of today's game overall? Because I know we'll come on to the match incidents. Booing at half-time. A lot of Spurs fans weren't happy again. Rich alluded to it about the first-half performances. It was just another typical Spurs display, and I think Rich is absolutely right. It kind of just sums up what Tottenham's season has been about. Those first half performances again. We come back in that second half, we perform, we score goals, we end up winning. Are you happy right now?
Like I say, I'm happy that we won, but I'm not happy. I'm not happy, and one of the reasons that I'm not happy is because it's the same old story. We've done it all season. We done it last season. Right wing back. Do you know what I mean? After Spence came on against Forest on 60, 65 minutes in the cup during the week, you could see just in that cameo of time that he offered more defensively, he offered more offensively. He had pace, he had calm, he had assurity, he had composure. Do you know what I mean? All that for a young man. And to see Emerson Royal start today, straight away my head was, I was just like, oh, here we go. Do you know what I mean? And then even when we made the change, and I know, Chris, you was in the stadium, so you heard the reaction. You can speak about that yourself. But even when we made the change to Doherty, I was like, oh my gosh, like seriously? And brought on Sanchez at the same time. And then we conceded a goal at that point as well. I was just like, I was seething, mate, because I started to think that although I love Conte and trust him, it's got to be stubbornness, man. Because the amount of analysts and the amount of sports science people and the amount of people that are analyzing every single player and the amount they run, the cross, everything, the way that they recover, there are so many people measuring these players that I can't believe that Royal ended up starting today. I know it's typical, and I know we all could have probably called it, but I was just like, after the cameo, come on. How bad can Spence be? Do you know what I mean? Like, if he had more minutes to build on something, then we could see a player there. We're not saying he's the answer, but I can say, from my opinion, that he's at least a better option than the ones we have at right wing back. And, so I was seething from the start, bro. And in those defensive frailties again, I don't know what to say, bro. But the biggest thing one of the biggest positives that I can say is that the criticism that we've been getting recently, or the boys that have been getting recently, those that are thinking about the World Cup and maybe some of the performances recently have lacked the 100% commitment, and people have tried to kind of say it's because of the World Cup. Everybody on that field today, they put everything out there. I didn't see anybody really kind of holding back or thinking about the World Cup. Everybody went for it. And we thought there was a desire there to get back into the game. There was a fight there to get back into the game. And then there was even that determination to go in there and get the winner as well. And thank goodness for he's the reason, mate. Thank goodness for he's the reason.
Absolutely. Rich, let's come to you. Robin writes now, that was on the edge. Why is he playing Emerson Royal there? All of their success came down his side. We'll talk about the starting lineup in a couple of minutes, but it is the same talking points every show. I sound like a broken record asking every single guest, why is Emerson Royal in the team? And Ricky rightly said about the instant when Doherty come on. It was probably the biggest cheer of the season so far at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium when he came off. It can't be very nice for him, can it?
And that doesn't support the team at all, really. It's obviously a reaction from the fans, and I can understand that. But going back to the start of the game, I think we moved the ball far too slow, sideways passing, just trying to kind of get to grips with the game instead of just going after it. It's Leeds United. We should have battered them, really. You look at the starting lineup, you could say we've got a good chance of beating these guys like 3 or 4. I don't understand why the brakes were on so much in the first half. And the wing backs are part of that problem. I think Djed Spence is going to get his chance, surely, or he's going to go out on loan. I think yes, he's going to make mistakes as a young wing back, but not like the ones that Emerson Royal makes. Jesus Christ. And game after game after game. And he might be putting in the work on the training pitch. But we're not seeing that yet. We're seeing the same kind of environmental mistakes every game. And whether that's going forwards, not crossing the ball and doing like a step over and missing the chance across, or defensively just getting his feet tangled up. But it's that back 4 or back 5, when the 2 wing backs come in, has looked quite fragile over the last couple of weeks. Dyer, whether it's Lenglet, whether it's Sanchez, there doesn't seem to be a leader there. Where's the leadership? I think Lloris has even started to have a couple of mistakes come into his game because of it as well. And I think that's come out of our game, the confidence that we have on the ball. And I don't know whether it's pressure, I don't know whether it's the World Cup, but what I definitely know is that a lot of players are playing a lot of minutes, and because of that, their performance level has dipped, especially at the back. It's like gone. It was on the rise. We're kind of picking up some results against, yes, lower league teams, but recently performance levels, energy levels have massively dipped. First half, very poor. Second half, even today, I think the second half wasn't great. We won, it wasn't great, and we got out of jail today for sure.
Rich, with Emerson Royal, do you think that Antonio Conte sees him as a better defender? I know he really struggles to cross the ball and attack, which I think it would be fair to say Doherty is a lot better in that department than Emerson. I can't really say that about Djed Spence yet because we haven't seen enough of him in a Tottenham Hotspur shirt. But defensively, is he the best right wing back we have defensively?
I think position-wise, I think he sees him better in those defensive positions and more reliable in those shapes in defence, and doesn't think that Djed Spence will stay defensive and he'll overcommit going forwards. And that's something that I think Conte's he's going to have to play him and have to see how he actually does play in those positions. Doherty and Emerson Royal are much of a muchness. I think they're definitely not, like I said from the start of the season, they're not top 4 wing backs. They're not top 4 players at all, in my mind. I need to be careful because I'm going into this the Spurs training ground on the 1st of December to do some work with the England ladies, so hopefully I don't bump into the 2 guys. But I think both of them just aren't good enough for top 4. That's my honest opinion.
You know what, Chris? Sorry, brother. I wanted to ask Rich a question, actually, because you are the marathon man, Rich. Can you explain fatigue? Can you explain how fatigue can affect you mentally, physically, how it can affect you, you know, and then going into maybe a race for yourself or into doing something physical when you do have fatigue?
Rich, before you answer that, is there any chance you could change your microphone setting? A couple of people are saying you're a bit quiet.
Okay, I'm doing it now. Is that good?
I can hear you. Okay,
it's good for me.
Is that good?
Yeah,
We'll probably turn it down on that.
That's much better.
Let's said that Whitehead's on tonight. Let's turn the microphone down. That's what it is. Down. Yeah. So fatigue.
Well, someone said we know he's ranting, but we can't hear it.
Yeah. Going back to your question, Ricky. Fatigue. I think for me, mental fatigue is really important, especially in the game of football, because it's about decision making and poor decision making. And even towards the end of the game today, it's like we were playing against 10 men the last 5 minutes, and the crowd were cheering when we were just belting the ball at the other end of the field. And I'm going, what? We've got 11 men against 10. Why are we not keeping the ball? And that's where that fatigue is really coming into the players. The players are having to get up for a game every 3 or 4 days. So mentally having to use a lot of energy, mental energy as well as physical energy all the time. So recovery days are limited. So for instance, if I was to do a marathon like I did in New York, I'd have recovery days now before I step foot back on the road to be able to start training for my next race. The same as the players, they would have a recovery day after match day, and then they start getting back into training, into recovery strategies, and then tactics moving forward to the next game. And the problem is, it's like game after game after game. And I don't think Conte is able to change anything from game to game. So what we're seeing mistakes that happen game after game after game because he's not able to address those individually and as a team. And because of that, our performance levels generally are dipping, mental fatigue's coming in. So naturally, the whole performance of the team is being affected. And you can see it with like Harry Kane. I watched him quite a lot today. And yes, he's putting in the same kind of effort, but things just aren't coming off like they were the first 3 or 4 games of the season because he's having to switch on so much in every game that his energy levels and the fatigue levels are rising. His energy levels are dipping, and his fatigue levels are rising.
And does that increase any panic or anxiety? Do you know what I mean?
For sure, because you're the decisions you're making are less rational and they're less like the decisions you make in training because you've got muscle fatigue on top of mental fatigue and you just feel heavy. It's like you going to work, you have a long day at work, and you finish your work and you just go, and that's what they feel after the final whistle because they're so knackered. And even the guys who are coming off today, they didn't even want to celebrate, really. They just want to get off the pitch and get into the showers.
Yeah, it's funny, actually.
My little girl, say hello.
the Forest game on Wednesday and today, I felt that, I watch Antonio Conte a lot because I think he's very, very entertaining on the touchline. And I just felt that on Wednesday and today, he was a lot more quieter than normal. He looked very, very frustrated, particularly when we were 3-2 down. Arms crossed, hands in pockets at times, head in hands at times as well, thinking, what on earth am I watching? He must be very frustrated and mentally drained as well. So I think this break has come at a good point for us.
For sure. He's the conductor, right? He's controlling from the side of the pitch. He's, as well as having that key quarterback that's on the pitch, like Kane, that's conducting the play. Obviously, having Conte is so important for the team, getting those messages across. And today, I think he just ran out of ideas. There's the one point when I was like going, come on, get some instructions onto the pitch. It wasn't coming. And luckily, we've got the quality on the bench to come on and make those changes. I think when we did make those changes in the game, it lost a bit of momentum. But Bentancur, obviously, with his brace, kind of changed everything.
Rick, let's come to you. Let's talk about the starting 11 today. Antonio Conte chose Hugo Lloris in goal, the wing-backs of Emerson Royal and Perisic, the back three of Dyer, Lenglet and Davies, in midfield Bentancur and Højbjerg, and then the front three of Kulusevski, Richarlison and Harry Kane. But just before we talk about the starting 11, I just want to show you this clip of Heung-min Son walking in. The reason why I've just shown that clip is I think it's fantastic because when the players walked out to play the game, he was right behind the team. He sat on the bench. He celebrated with all of his teammates after the match, which I thought was fantastic. Lovely to see Sonny back, isn't it, Rick?
Oh, I mean, we all love Sonny. We all love Sonny. And you know what? When we saw him go down against Marseille, I feared the worst for him. Do you know what I mean? I feared the worst for him and for us and for the World Cup, for him and the country. And to see him back at the lane, smiling, looking good, hair was good, glasses were on point. I even liked the Cardi. It was a bit
Burberry
too
Cardi, yeah.
It was a bit too fluffy, but I thought it looked great on him.
The amount of people who have said, "What on earth is he wearing?" It's Burberry. That's who he's sponsored by.
Love that.
I thought you showed that clip because you wanted a bit of a collaboration, Chris.
Absolutely, I love Sonny. He's my favourite player. My favourite player.
Sonny to bits.
Rick, let's come back to talking about the starting 11. Any surprises there for you, or is that what you expected?
I mean, it's a surprise that it wasn't a surprise, if that makes any sense. You know, I was really hoping that even if it was just for the fans, that Conte would chuck in Spence, just because the thing is that we can all see it. So I don't understand how he can't see it, or any of those analysts that sit behind him or at the training ground that do the video analysis. I don't know how any of them cannot kind of be saying the same thing. Like, give him a shot, give him a couple of games, give him a run, let him get some rhythm, let him see if he can fulfill the tactics that you're asking him to fulfill in training on the pitch in a real game. Why not? I don't understand why he didn't start against Forest during the week. He would have provided energy, a bit of danger, and a bit of an unknown quantity. Whereas right now, the known quantity is if you attack down the right side, our right side, if you attack Royal, you're probably going to get through. Do you know what I mean? If you attack us in the first half, you're more than likely going to get a shot, stroke, get a goal in the first half. And if you attack and exploit that right-hand side, that's probably going to be the avenue that it comes down. So after all that, which it did, do you know what I mean? And after all that, to see him start, and look, the thing is that I backed him. I wanted him to work. I appreciate the work that he's put in. I remember that he spent £1 million on trying to transform himself into Hakimi from PSG, and like I said,
Zucchini, I tell you.
But even then, like I remember when I heard it, I was like, I hope he kept his receipts. Do you know what I mean? Because my gosh. But look, man, it's like there's a lot of things that have got to change with that starting lineup coming up to January in the January transfer window. It was. I can't even say it was the best that we could put out, but it was the most likely that we can put out. We can see that we're shifting Dyer over so that Sanchez doesn't play, and that we kind of restructure the back three. Do you know what I mean? But that could cause confusion as well, on top of the fatigue factor with the panic and the anxiety. If you've got new partners in there, left, right, and centre, and everybody's panicking, then that's not a solid back three, is it? I mean, look how that back three was. Look how Dyer was. And Ali Gold mentioned this in his latest video. He's like, ever since Dyer got the call up for England, his form has just dropped. Think about how solid he was. Think about how much of a leader he was. Think about how many Tottenham fans and fans across the league, and we all know that we haven't got too many friendly fans, opposition fans, that enjoy or like Tottenham. We know that, but everybody was calling for Dyer to be in that England squad ahead of Maguire, and just because of his form, and just because of his form and his leadership within the back three. But ever since he got that call up, it has dropped, and maybe that's the run of games, maybe that's the fatigue, maybe that's the always being switched on thing. But you know, it was just. It was just tough. Like you just said there, not only for us as a panel, but for those boys, they all need a break. You know what I mean? I know a lot of them are going to the World Cup. Majority of them in that starting 11 are going to the World Cup. But we all need a break, and so that we can reassess and kind of get back to the fundamentals of what this Tottenham side's about. We haven't seen this Tottenham side click the whole season. We've won, And we've had a couple of good performances, but we haven't seen them click. We haven't got out of second gear. We've just about pushed into second at times, but then we get back into first. Then we play that negative football and all of this first half palaver. So it's the break has definitely come at the right time, and fingers crossed that starting 11 can start to change come January.
Something to think about, Rick. I'm going to ask you the question at the end of the show. Your highlight of the season, so it may take a good hour to think about that. Rich, let's come to you. Now, when you look at that starting 11 today, the midfield doesn't look a problem. The forward line doesn't look a problem. Defensively, and I know we will talk about the January transfer window at the end of the show, but defensively, how would you describe our defensive display today and in the last few games? Because we do seem to be shipping an awful lot of goals lately.
Yeah, terrible. Go back to what I said before about leadership. Don't seem to have any leaders in that back four. Don't seem to be wanting to take the ball out of defence. It's more for those long balls or those lateral balls that just what I want to be seeing is the ball pinging from left to right and like not having a lot of time on the ball, but having those kind of real kind of great movement from left to right and kind of those nice triangles that we had at the start of the season. They've just gone out of the game completely. And that's confidence, might be fatigue. But I think it's about real leaders in the team. People saying, I've got the ball now. This is what I'm going to do with it. I'm confident with you taking the ball off me, doing something else positive and break those lines moving forwards. Defensively, we are poor. We are like mid-table poor. And yes, we've had injuries, but so have a lot of other teams with the games that have come up. And we've had to cope with Champions League football on a Wednesday as well as playing at the weekends, and that's going to have an effect, especially on those players that are injury prone through having 20, 30 plus games and then normally pick up injuries. We've had some players that we've actually missed out because of that. Wing backs, yes, are an issue, and I would say definitely on that right hand side. We also need to look at that those centre back positions, and whether that's one or two centre backs to come in. Hopefully, Sanchez has a great World Cup. Somebody buys him, and then we replace him with somebody else. Because there's going to be a time where we kind of actually go, if our expectations are going to be top three every season, here's somebody like him coming into the team, going to make us better or be a great substitute for one of the starters. If the answer's no, then we need to start to just kind of move those players on. Obviously, Lee is buzzing. He's always buzzing after a win. He don't care how we win as long as we win. I know what Lee's like. I bet he's in an Uber taxi on the way back from some seedy pub somewhere. You know, it's the way
that we all get to and from games. I tell you, the things we do to support Spurs and watch them home and away. Rich, with our defensive line, Lenglet has come in obviously for Romero. It's been very disappointing that we haven't seen Romero in the last few games. We have missed him, haven't we? Big time.
Yeah, for sure. His bite at the back, his determination to win the ball. I think when you've got somebody like him in your starting 11, it shows real commitment to how you play. And he's a player as well that after an injury, it takes him a bit of time to come back from that. I noticed that he had a couple of games out, then came back in, and it was like, we're not kind of getting the same Romero back. And that's because of the energy and the intensity levels that he does play at are so high. Something like him you're always going to miss. Obviously touted as probably one of the best three centre-backs in the league. And somebody that is reliable at the back. Like he's always making those right decisions in the box, which some of our other centre-backs and wing-backs don't make. Without him, very vulnerable. Even the decisions we make in that line of three, I've noticed over the last couple of games, just people just not actually like communicating across that line. And whether that's a language barrier, whether that's just a training kind of, they're not actually training enough to actually have that confidence to be kind of pushing up as a three. But Romero is somebody that kind of forces the back three up with Dyer. but we might need 1 or 2 centre-backs in January.
I just feel that we get a very different Eric Dyer when Romero isn't playing, and
Sure.
I get every Spurs fan's frustration when, of course, Romero is missing, when it's always surrounding international duty. Rick, let's come to you. Of course, Clement Lenglet has been deputising for Romero when he's not been there. What have you made of Clement Lenglet in a Spurs shirt? And if it came to it at the end of the season, would you like to see Spurs sign him on a permanent deal from what you've seen so far?
So I see a calmness with Lenglet. I see definitely he has great passing distribution. But I think with him, the more he plays, and the more he plays within a solid back three, and what I mean by that is with Dyer and Romero, I think we will see a better version of Lenglet as well. I think, like I was saying earlier, where there is anxiety and panic happening in that back line, where he's the new one, it's hard to judge. It's hard to judge right now. But what I have seen is that the more games he has, the more comfortable he looks, and especially on the ball and moving that ball forward. Would I sign him at the end of the season? It really does depend on what else we're going for. So, if we're going for a Bastoni, or if we're going for, I don't know, if we're going for a big boy, basically, a Gvardiol or something, if we're going for a big boy, then I that's who I want, because that's the level that I think that we need in the squad to step us up, to get us up in the leagues and up in the kind of the thought of Tottenham. When people think of Tottenham, if they can see someone like, for instance, Bastoni and Romero, and let's say Dyer, in that back three, I think that's going to worry a couple. It's going to worry a couple of sides. So I would take that, but I think he's been pretty okay, pretty good. He hasn't been shocking. I don't think he's been terrible. I don't think he has been. I think there's plenty worse in that.
He's
Tottenham
more
side.
versatile, I think, isn't he? He's more versatile for the team, I think.
Yeah, he is, and I prefer seeing him than Sanchez as well. And look, Sanchez, he was a record signing. I don't know how many years ago. He had 1-2 good seasons with Toby and Jan, and in the time that he was supposed to step up, he didn't really step up, and then he's been bumpy the whole way. And I think that he's got to the end of the line now. I think that he like plenty of other Spurs players that we've sold, we could probably sell him, and he could go on to be one of the greats in Spain or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Or even Italy, But I think I think this journey is almost done for him at Tottenham. I think he's done being in the B side. I think he's done being backup. It's clear that Conte doesn't trust him, because he would be the natural one that you put in. You wouldn't play. You'd keep Dyer in his position, and you'd put Sanchez to the right-hand side, and then you'd play Davies or Lenglet on the left-hand side. But Conte clearly can't trust Sanchez as much as the rest of them, so that's why he's shifting that back three around. So I definitely think it's time for him to go, and I think I've seen worse performances from him. I haven't seen that in Lenglet at all. Like I say, I see a calmness, I see an assuredness, and I see him growing game to game. And I think that if that back line was a little, add Dyer as a leader, that leader that we had at the start of the season, those first 8-9 games, I think that we would see the best of Lenglet, because then Lenglet could feel free and trust Dyer to deal with what's happening at the back, and him to push forward and get more of those crosses in, get more of those balls in, break the lines a bit more, create a bit more chaos. And especially if we had Romero on the other side, who does exactly the same on the right-hand side, that could create chaos in itself in the attacking front.
Rich, it's fair to say that Spurs look like a completely different side when Dejan Kulusevski is in the starting 11. It is great to have him back, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Offers lots of different options going forwards, obviously. His pace running with the ball, strength on the ball, willingness to have the ball in tight situations. Is not scared of failure within those attacking areas. Always looking calm and collected in the penalty box. He's come in and kind of revolutionised that position for us, to be honest. and he's somebody that can play in a variety of different positions, obviously. But I think, obviously, his better position on having an impact on a team in an Antonio Conte team is where he is now. It's kind of driving forwards, bringing that ball back towards a Kane, a Son, a Richarlison, and also not being scared of putting it in the back of the net as well. He's a great addition to the team. I think he can still improve in other areas, especially defensively. But he looks fantastic. And what a player! What a player! How did we pick him up? I know other teams were looking at him, but that's a great find. And came in the team. Performance levels massively improved. Obviously, in that area, far better than obviously Lucas. More consistent, stronger. I think Lucas is okay on the ball. Spends too much time on it sometimes. Doesn't make the right decision. Where Kulusevski's stronger, wings back the ball. Also, is always looking for the back of the net or one of his forward players.
Another player that I'd like to talk about, and he was my man on the match today, Rodrigo Bentancur. Rick, do you think that we've ever had such a good January transfer window in Premier League history? Because you remember, I interviewed various journalists asking their opinion on Kulusevski and Bentancur, and they actually come out and said they're no better than Harry Winks. They're awful players. They can't string a pass together. They can't do this. They can't do that. My face was an absolute picture. I looked devastated. A number of Spurs fans at the time, on the 31st of January, were very angry, stating, we've just signed 2 Juventus rejects. It's fair to say that they transformed the season last season. We got Champions League probably because of those additions. Now, this is why, and I know we will talk about the January window later on in the show, but this is why that this upcoming window is so important, because you've got to have players walking straight into that team. Now, these two have transformed this Spurs team, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. And it's the first time in a long time that we've had 2 players that, like you just said there, that can come in straight away to the first team. Like, we haven't had that. It's normally, okay, let's bed them in, or they're one for the future, or, the players that we've got on the field already, they're trusted more. But these 2, they came in at a time where we was a bit empty in midfield and a bit empty up front. And both of those guys totally transformed this side. And like you just said there, that's why it's even more important that this January, the fact that we've gone in, right now we're 3rd, 29 points, right? Who knows what Newcastle are going to do. But the fact that we've gone in 3rd, qualified for the Champions League knockout stages, puts us in a fantastic position. And it's all about how we build on that, but we build on it within the first team. We can't get another 19-year-old that Conte doesn't want to play. We were linked with Marcus Edwards. I would love Edwards to come back, but do I think he's going to play? I don't think he's going to play. And the reason I don't think he's going to play is because of the evidence of Djed Spence and Brian Hill. Now, we know Brian Hill is roughly the same stature as him. From watching Marcus Edwards, it looks like it's hard to push him off the ball, where it's a little bit easier to push Brian Hill off the ball. But if we're going to sign him, is he going to play? Is he going to walk into that first 11? Is he going to challenge some people in that first 11? I don't know. I would love him there, but I don't know. But it's really important that we actually kind of go to work in the areas that we really need work in. Now, we knew from last season that Doherty and Emerson Royal was a problem. Emerson Royal was a new boy, so it's all right, cool. Let's give him a moment. Let's give him a chance. Let him learn the language. Let him learn the ways, the tactics, and everything else. But we've literally seen nothing. He goes up. He makes great runs. He gets in great positions. But the crosses, I don't know where they go. The shots go over the bar and into row Z. Every time he gets up there and he can actually burst to the line and put a cross in, hopefully within the box area. He stops, turns around, passes it backwards, which loses all the momentum. It loses all the threat, all the fight, all the flight, everything. It loses everything. It loses everything that we just tried to build. The opposition tend to pull back and then they get back into defensive positions where they can defend whatever else comes in. And then, all of our front line are in front of their defense, where before we had a moment, there were some gaps, there were some spaces to play in. But Emerson, and that's why it's like when you're talking about is he the better defender? He's not. Because reason being is that he is the one that gets attacked down that side. Every side knows if you attack him.
It's not what I think, Rick. It's just adding a little bit of balance. It's not what I think, by the way.
No, I get it. I get it, bro. But it's like, even the opposition don't mind him having the ball. I think that should say a lot. Forget what we're saying right now. If the opposition are like, Emerson Royal's got the ball, don't worry, lads. I think that says more than anything we can say right here. So we've known for a long time that right wing back, being a wing back system, knowing how much those wing backs are important to the system of Conte and the way that we play or want to play, I'm really surprised that we didn't really address a first teamer in that position. All right, it didn't happen, but it has to happen now. You know, I've been calling for Denzel Dumfries for ages, Chris. You can be my witness, bro. I've called before he even went to Inter. I was like, we can get him for 13 mil. Go get him. Go do it. You know, even after the Euros, you could have seen he was a better wing back than what we had or what we was after. So, you know, when I heard that rumor during the week that we might be looking at him, I need us to go look at him properly. Now we're going to have to pay triple than we would have done, but go get the number one target. Go get the man that's going to transform this side and put us on the front foot, you know, and give that opposition something to worry about. They won't. If we got Dumfries, the opposition would not want him to have the ball. Let me tell you that much. It would panic them. Then they don't know what to do. Then we do have a threat from all over the pitch, you know. So. Yeah, man. It's really important that we go into January and we go get 2 or 3 that can improve this first 11 and players that Conte trusts to play, because it's clear that there's a lot he doesn't trust.
I know we're all itching to go on to talk about the transfer window. We will come on to it.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm itching to get onto it as well, Rick. Now, Rich, let's come to you. In the 9th minute, a ball was played in by Eric Dyer, who it was a little bit frustrating for me because he had a lot of space. He crossed it, but there was no one there. Just a minute later, Leeds United took the lead 1-0 through Somerville. It just seemed so easy for Leeds. A ball in between Eric Dyer and Emerson, who a lot of the viewers
far too much space.
That it come from Emerson's side again. It seemed so easy, didn't it, conceding that goal?
Yeah. It just like they made us look so ordinary in those positions. I felt the defence were just not switched on and haven't been in the first half of the games. It just feels that snap's like really gone out of like the play, maybe because of the people that we've got at the back. But also, I just think Leeds had more to fight for in that first half, and we're just at the ball a lot quicker than us. And then when you see that going, you go, it's going to be a long game today. Come on, guys, just like come on, be on the front foot more. Kind of want the ball. Got those silly mistakes as well. We've had those silly mistakes over the last 4 weeks. The Forest game, the Arsenal game, blah blah, Liverpool game, one after another. And Leeds just wanted it more than us. I still think that obviously fans getting on players' backs doesn't help. If you're wanting a player to have a great game, if you jump on a player's back, that's not going to help them at all. The managers need to take a little bit more responsibility for picking the players that are on the pitch. The players can only do as much as they can, and if they're playing poorly, then they need to be removed or not actually started. It's not Emerson's fault that he is in this bad wave of a run, because obviously when he was bought in, there was something they saw in him to invest that kind of money. Was it 18 million? For me, it's just.
Is it bad form, Rich, or is it that he's just not up to it?
Well, obviously Conte's picking him, thinking that he's obviously the best option in that area. He wouldn't be picking him if he didn't believe that he's the best option in that area. For me, he's not good enough. Like I've said time and time again, like your mate Doherty, he's not good enough either. You got your shirt on today, Chris? You got your shirt on? Hey, look, by the way, anybody that's got free shirts, Chris loves a free shirt. Christmas is coming up, so any free shirts.
Only if you can concentrate.
Yeah, I mean, but no, I going back to that question, I think Conte picks the team, he sets up the team, and so if continually putting Emerson in those positions, then he needs to take a little bit of responsibility for that as well. And he isn't good enough, like Ricky said, at the attacking side of his game. Very slow at making those decisions to get the ball in. I think when he's instinctive, things happen better. When he's got options, no chance. If he's got 2 or 3 passes on, he always takes the wrong one. So for me, sell him in January. Not loan him, sell him.
You know what you just said there, Rich? As in, like, the crowd booing him and Conte having to take some responsibility. I think that's why the crowd are booing. And I think that's why they're having that reaction, because it's the only opportunity they've got to kind of show their frustration at him being picked again and getting the same performances, the same responses from him, the same rubbish passes, the same, the opposition attacking on that same side. So I think it's a frustration. Listen, none of us, I don't believe any Tottenham fan wants to slag off any player that has a cockerel on his chest. None of us want to do it. But we have to say what we see, a bit like catchphrase. And if he's not doing it, then and we've given him time and patience. Do you know what I mean? If he's not doing it, then the crowd, it's not nice. It's not going to pick him up. It's not going to get him to play any better. But it does show a frustration from the fans to Conte and the board that this is not the guy. Yeah, and that's where you come in there, where you're saying that Conte needs to take some responsibility.
But half time, man, it's like if you're nailing a player at half time or booing him for coming off, next time he plays, he's gonna have to fix up. Or do you know what I mean? It's just like confidence. We talk about confidence in a team. When you're confident, you naturally your form raises. If 60,000 fans are like clapping because you've had a shit game and you come off, then you ain't feeling that good about yourself, are you? And that's a problem. And that's a problem. But for me again, it's Conte needs to manage that situation. If he's having a shocker, then he naturally needs to come off. But it needs to be a process of like reintegrating him back into the team, not just throwing him back in the next week and having another crap game.
Yeah. Well, Antonio Conte has just come out and said a big effort. He's very happy with the 3 points. Now, I'm going to tread very carefully on what I say about Emerson Royal now, because in the 13th minute, Kulusevski, a good run from him, pulled it back to Emerson. He shot straight at Meslier, who made a save. It then went out for a corner. And then 5 minutes later, what a chance from Emerson Royal. Great work from Ben Davies, pulled it back to Emerson Royal. He skied it. I could not believe at the time that he did not put that on target. I actually jumped up out of my seat, expecting him to score and it to go in the back of the net. And this lady then looked at me as if to say, how on earth did that not go in? And I pointed at her and said, you would have scored that. And she said, yes, I would. She said, yes, I would have scored it.
Do you know what, mate? That ball went in the same car park as the one that we went over at the Forest game. That's how bad it was.
I'm just so glad, Rich, that I parked about a mile or 2 away from the stadium. So I didn't want my car hit again. All joking aside, who wants to take this? All joking aside, that has got to be hitting the back of the net. That has got to be on target, hasn't it? Rick?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it. Yeah, listen, of course it has to. Of course it has to. And this is what we're saying, bro. Like, I honestly believe if Spence was on there, it's at least getting on target. Do you know what I mean? Did you see the crackers that he scored last year? Not just inside the box, I'm talking outside the box. Just the way he striked the ball last season. I'm just like, just give him a go. Give him a chance. And that's going to encourage the fans to boo and to jeer, and because you're like, we can't be served up the same old rubbish time and time and again, and I don't know how it didn't, but as soon as it flew off into Rose Ed and going towards your car, Chris, I was sitting there with my head in my hands, being like, "Serious, I can't even believe he's playing."
Mate, there was somebody on that skywalk, and they caught it. I tell you, mate, I tell you, that's terrible. But again, going back to my point, he had too much time, too many options. He was thinking, I'm telling you, he was thinking, who do I pass this ball to? Can they shoot? Because I don't want to. That's what he was thinking. And then, mate, unbelievable. What a miss. Beautiful.
I don't even think he could, cross in a noughts and crosses game. Like, honestly, I don't know. There ain't enough. I can't no more. I've tried to back him, and he's still young, and there's still a lot more to come from him, I'm sure. But I'm over and out, and I'm done with him and Doherty.
He's probably still in that cryo chamber. That's what it is. He's still in that cryo chamber. He forgot to come out. That's it. And that's it. It's too cold. That's what it is. You need to spend more time in Brazil. Warm environments, not cold. Too cold, man. Too cold. Get yourself warm. Get yourself ready.
Do you know what, though? I just feel gutted. I felt gutted at the time for Emerson Royal, because you just wanted that to go in, just to say to the fans, look, I've scored. I'm trying my best, because he did get a lot of stick today. He's had a lot of stick over the past few weeks. The Spurs away end, sung a song about him at the Bournemouth game, which wasn't very nice either. But like you said earlier on, Ricky, that we want it to happen for all of the Spurs players, and we don't want to be dissing any of them. But it just underlines to me again where we have a real weakness on that right-hand side. And, for me, if you put in two really decent, fast wing-backs into this system and into this starting 11, it would transform this team. But that's my opinion. Rich, let's go to you. In the 20th minute, Somerville was through on goal. Again, a good save from Hugo Lloris. Leeds then hit the post, but it was offside. They look quite threatening. They're a good attacking side, Leeds, aren't they?
For sure. Very dynamic. Obviously, the manager has tried to change the Bielsa way of playing, and more kind of moving that ball around, getting those attacking players into space just in front of the back three, and getting them on the turn and getting them moving. They had so much ball in those attacking in that attacking third, and that's why they created those opportunities. And we were just far too static. You look at the players, static all the time. Need to be kind of pressing the ball, need to be moving forwards, need to be kind of catching those players offside. But Leeds looked like they were better than their league position for sure. Their major issue for me, is that they've not got the experience of Premier League football. I think there's a lot of players in there that just last 20 minutes they kind of just switched off, and then we just dominated. But for me, it was Leeds were the team in the top three in the first half, and we were fighting relegation.
Yeah, well, they definitely came into this game with confidence, having won against Liverpool at Anfield, and of course beating Bournemouth in the dramatic way that they did at home at Ellen Road last week. Rick, let's come to you. In the 26th minute, Harry Kane equalised for Tottenham. A corner flicked on, Harry Kane brought it down, then shot in to the back of the net. Great finish from Kane, and he is now even closer to Jimmy Greaves' record.
Oh, bro. I mean, I think it was fantastic for Kane as well. He did look tired against Forest. So for him to come in, put his all in again, and score a great goal. I thought they was going to take it off of him, because they were saying there was a foul in the box with Lenglet and the keeper. But I'm glad that it was ruled in and not ruled out. And for Harry this season, he has played every game. And, his Premier League goals are up there. And I'm just really happy that he put in a proper shift today and kind of got that goal to reward us all, and to kind of send us all home with a bit of a smile on our face, going into the Christmas period, going into the World Cup, and then giving us a good feeling to kind of come back in January with him hopefully fit and firing from the start. So, I'm super pleased for Harry. And you could see
looked tired though, didn't he? He looked tired though.
Honestly, he's looked tired for me since Marseille. That Marseille away game, he's looked tired for me, and I've seen him take short breaks So you see him like slowing down and almost walking or little jogs here and there. And he wasn't really bursting as much as he normally does. And so I think he's been tired for a while, but he's going to be. I mean, we discussed that fatigue thing earlier, and it's only his leadership and his mindset and his drive that has got him through, and his commitment to Tottenham that has got him through. And so I'm really happy that he got to sign off today with a lovely goal.
Do you worry about his fitness, Rick, now going to the World Cup? Because, of course, going to the World Cup, captain of England, there is going to be so much expectation from everybody here that England have got to do well in this competition. And now Harry Kane is going to be training out in Qatar, day in, day out, playing game after game. Are you worried about his fitness levels? Yeah,
I'm worried about him, and I'm worried about every single other Tottenham player at the World Cup because of the short turnaround as well. Soon as they come back, there's basically game straight away. And it's a really weird season. We're never going to have a season like it because, fingers crossed, the World Cup never happens at Christmas again. But it's a really weird season. We've run him into the ground. And like you said, he's England captain, so he's going to be playing every game as well. But what I heard from Southgate the other day was that some that have been playing relentlessly, the best thing for them is to have some rest before they start training with the England team. But Harry being Harry and Harry having the armband, I don't see him resting too much. Do you know what I mean? I just see his pride and his desire to play and be the best. I see him out there doing it. And so, of course, I'm worried. I'm worried about him. I'm worried about the lot of them. I'm worried about Sonny, Richie, the lot of them that are out there. It's going to be tough. And I just fingers crossed that they come back all in one piece. And, and that's another thing that we're going to have to manage come the second half of the season. We're going to have to manage those players that went out there and put everything out in the World Cup, And even, we speak about January and we will go into January, but some of the players that we're probably after are going to be playing at the World Cup and are going to be in other leagues that have had the same amount of games. And so we're going to have this problem anyway. So it's about, having a squad that Conte can trust and happily rotate and hopefully rest up some of the players that are in the red zone when it comes down to fitness so that we don't have to run him into the ground. I don't understand why we would try and kind of keep playing him until he's injured and then he'll be out for 3 to 4 months. We can't have that. So we did miss out on 2 rest days for Kane this year. In this short period of time. The Marseille away game, because of the Kane goal, was ruled offside against Sporting. Was it offside? It was VAR, wasn't it? And so the Marseille game, that last Champions League game, would have been a rest game, would have been a change. I'm hoping it would have been a changed side game. And that's really why Conte was really upset after that Sporting game, because he knew he couldn't rest these players that are already in the red zone. And then come to Forest, we've got no strikers, nobody up front. So it's almost like he had to play. We heard the reports from Conte saying he asked Kane in the morning because he was feeling it. He was feeling the tiredness. He was feeling a bit groggy. But Kane being Kane, he stepped up and came on and played an hour for us when he shouldn't have played at all in that game, really. So, it does worry me, bro. It does worry me. But I'm just going to cross my fingers and toes and hope that all of them come back fit and healthy and ready for the business end of the season.
Absolutely. Rich, let's come to you in the 27th minute. Dejan Kulusevski with a good chance, Melee out to save. In the 40th minute, Leeds had a free kick, was hit the wall, rebound, comfortable for Hugo Lloris. And the 43rd minute, Leeds United took the lead, 2-1. Rodrigo scored. We failed to clear on the volley. A fantastic finish from him. Richarlison with a chance towards half-time. And then, of course, the half-time whistle went. And there were boos inside the stadium. Are you surprised on how many times we have seen and heard boos at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium since we've moved in?
I think with the first half performances, is there a surprise? No, probably not. Been very weak in those first halves. Have the players entertained the fans in those first halves? No, not really. with the kind of firepower that we've got as a team. No, not sorry. He can say hello. It's that Ricky off the panto. He's behind you. Yeah, I think it's understand. You know, if you're paying for obviously those games and you're there and you're just seeing the dross game after game in that first half, when you know that you take the shackles off some of the players that can be far better, it's quite frustrating. And frustrating wise, you're going to obviously boo the players at half time. I think we need to get into our heads. How do we motivate these players? Is it by booing? Maybe not. We just need to really. For me, it's about motivation, and we need to motivate the players somehow and kind of just get behind them and say, look, that wasn't good enough, but we know you can turn around in the second half. I'm not really a massive fan of booing anyway. Being a professional athlete, you kind of you don't get anything from that. But I can understand the frustration. Has that affected the second half performances? Today it didn't, because I thought we were still poor in the second half. I just thought Leeds energy levels dropped in that second half of the second half. I would say that the fans have been really patient with the Conte way of playing. That's one thing. And I saw that one of the comments that's gone through from Peter had said, we can't dominate every 90-minute game. I'm like, we haven't dominated any 90-minute games. Do you know what I mean? We haven't dominated any half of a game. It's like Conte's like sit back and like chill, and then when you get the ball, just hit them on the break. And that's a hard watch sometimes. That's a hard watch. For me, we get more exciting players in the team. We let the team be more expensive. We've got players like Kulusevski, we've got Richarlison, Kane, Sonny. Lots of other teams in the league would love all those players, but we need to let the shackles off and actually see them move to the next level. Me, yourself, Ricky, we've all talked about, we've not seen the true kind of Spurs yet because they've not got up to those levels that can get up to. But they're not going to get up to those levels if they've got kind of restraints on them all the time. Yeah.
Rick, let's come to you. Enter second half Tottenham that we've seen so many times this season. 51st minute, we got a goal back, so making it 2-2. Ben Davies with the finish. Good work from Kulusevski. Cut it back to Kane. It was blocked, and then Ben Davies followed it up, finishing 2-2. Nice to see Ben Davies popping up with yet another goal. He popped up with a vital goal at Bournemouth a couple of weeks ago, and another great goal from him.
Yeah, another great goal for him, and it was a really important one at an important time in that game. Do you know what I mean? Davies does get a lot of flack, but you can see that he always puts it.
Why does he?
I think it's just because, at first, when everybody kind of got fed up, the same way people are fed up with Sanchez right now, or Emerson Royal, but he was playing at left back. And he wasn't the most dynamic left back. He was a conservative left back. And again, even though he put it all out there and would, put his last legs, and he's always there for a block, and he's always putting his head in the way, and he doesn't think about endangering himself or hurting himself. He'll always put everything on the line. But I think in that period where he was playing left back, I think just everybody was kind of tired and almost had enough of it. As soon as Conte came in and put him into a back three at left centre back, we saw the improved performances. Now, before Conte turned up, everybody was calling for Davies to be sold. Even Dyer. Dyer was another one at that point that people were saying, like, yeah, I think it's time for him to go. But as soon as Conte came in, put them in a back three, suddenly we saw improved performances. Suddenly we saw them building on performances. And I think he's been pretty decent. Do you know what I mean? He can't be phenomenal every single game. And if some of his teammates let him down, then what is he supposed to do? Do you know what I mean? It's a collective. That's why they call it a defensive unit. You've got to be united. You've got to be a unit and work together and defend together and press together and attack together. So when everybody's panicking and all over the pitch, left, right, and centre, what can you do? But I think Davies is, you know, he puts everything out there. You'll always get a 6/7 out of 10, and sometimes you'll get an 8 out of 10 out of him. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I'm delighted to say that John Chambers is now home from the match from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. John, how are you?
Hello, Chris. Sorry, I'm a little bit late, guys. Just a bit like Spurs. I'm only turning up for the second half now.
Love it. Well, John, before we come on to you to talk about today's game, you've got a new book out, just been released, Tottenham's 3 Lines for Club and Country. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Yeah, it's a book about all the England players that have played for Spurs over the years, going all the way back to 1903, when Vivian Woodward was our very first English international. And over the years, Spurs have had, thanks, Chris, yeah, I can see you holding it up there. Spurs have had 77 England internationals, which is more than any other club in England. So it's one more than Aston Villa. So we've got a pretty proud record there of England internationals, and hopefully we'll be adding some more in the future.
John, you're just home from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium after witnessing Tottenham Hotspur beating Leeds United 4-3. What did you make of today's game?
Yeah, well, fantastic game. Yeah, apologies for being late. I did the M11 was all jammed up, so I had to sort of go the back way to get home. So I'm about half hour late. But yeah, fantastic game today. Fantastic entertainment. Wasn't really a game for the purists. I don't think the defences were on top at all, but it made it a fantastic game. And in the words of Leslie Phillips, who was a great Spurs fan who sadly passed away last week, the match was pretty much ding dong. It was pretty good.
Rich, let's come to you.
A good 3 points as well to end off the first part of the season as we go into the World Cup. I think we really needed to win today, so it's kept us right up near the top of the league. Ricky, fantastic! You've got the book. Fantastic, excellent.
Rich, didn't you get the memo?
Rich, what happened, Rich? Come on, mate.
I can't read.
Yeah, look, we've all got one.
There you go.
I got this memo though. I got this memo.
That's the only one you need. That's the one. Rich, let's come to you. In the 57th minute, Clement Lenglet went off, Emerson Royal went off, Sanchez and Doherty came on. As I stated earlier, it was probably the biggest cheer today with Emerson going off. In the 63rd minute, Harry Kane had a chance, shot wide. In the 68th minute, Richarlison went off, Basuma came on. What do you make of Richarlison's performance? Because it's great to see him back. Of course, he's going to the World Cup with Brazil. Great to see him back in a Tottenham Hotspur shirt, though. What did you make of him today?
He's clearly going to get a bag full of goals for us. He's just been unlucky. A couple of the opportunities he's had have just obviously just gone wide, or today just didn't really have the legs to go in. He puts it about, doesn't he? I think we've not seen the best of him yet, clearly. And for me, he's going to add a different dimension to the Spurs team. Conte needs to work out how to get the best of him with possibly either Harry and Kulu in the team or Harry and Sonny in the team. It gives Conte a good kind of problem when all 4 of them are fit. But for me, at the moment, he just needs to have that confidence in front of goal. The same as like Ben Davies, really. Ben Davies scores the other week and then gets another one today. That confidence in front of goal. I think Richarlison might get a bag full at the World Cup and then come back with that confidence, taking it into the end of the season, because we're going to need as many fit players as we can for the end of the season, because I can see the accumulation of injuries being worse at the back end of the season.
Ricky, let's come to you. In the 76th minute, Leeds United took the lead again. They went 3-2 up. Rodrigo goal, shot in the corner. Could Hugo Lloris have done a little bit better with that shot?
I mean, you've played in goal, Chris. What do you think? I mean, because the reason I say it, I'll give you my opinion, but the reason I ask you is because you've played in that position. So, do you think that he could have done better? Absolutely.
This is exactly why I'm asking the question. And yeah, I've played at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium I've played at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium twice, and I've won twice.
Get in, my friend. Well,
No.
I mean, like, goalkeepers are a whole different, thing. So sometimes it's easy to say they should have got it. That's why I wanted to ask somebody that's actually played in goal, But yeah, I'm with you. I think he could have. I think there was a lot of panic in that back line again. We've mentioned it. But you know what? It was the response from the boys today. Like there was every time we got pinned back or we another goal went in, and when that third goal went in for Leeds, I thought, well, that's it now. We're done. Yeah. I thought that we was going to score the next one and go on to win. And when they done it, I was like, wow, this is going to... And I had all my rants ready to go, Chris. Let me tell you. It would have been a different show. I mean, I know I've been ranting already and complaining already, but it would have been fire. It wouldn't have been the positive Ricky that you know and love, let me tell you. But no, to see the response from the boys and to see how much they actually wanted it. And these are the positive parts of the play. We know that we have that. We know we have play to the last whistle type of mentality. We know that there's always an opportunity for us. We know we have those Bergwijn, Lucas Moura moments. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't think it was going to happen today, but I was just so happy to see the response from the boys and how they got back, not only back into the game, but back into the game and then go on to get a win. I mean, blood. I mean, come on. I mean, it's why we love and hate Tottenham all at the same time, just because it's a crazy bloody well game. You think it's going down, and then suddenly it's all up in the air again, and everybody's happy and cheering and laughing and joking and high-fiving. Do you know what I mean? So it really did punch me in the gut, that third goal from Leeds, but I'm just happy with the response.
John, let's come to you because it was a great response. In the 79th minute, Tottenham Hotspur equalised, making it 3-3. Bentancur, of course, getting the goal. A cross in from Doherty, headed out, and then Bentancur with a great finish. We've already spoken about Bentancur. He's been sensational for Spurs this season, hasn't he?
He has. Since he's come last January, he's been absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I think he only scored, possibly, was it one goal in about 120 games or something for Juventus? He's just become a goal machine for us this season. He's just, and he gives everything on the pitch. He doesn't leave an ounce left on the pitch at all. Reminds me a little bit, I know he's not a forward player, but he reminds me a little bit the way he moves of Berbatov. It's very silky. He turns away from people. He drives forward, and he has been absolutely fantastic. Yeah, we could definitely do with a couple of new signings in January as good as what Kulu and Bentancur have been for us this season. They both added, style to our game as well. And we've really, really missed Kulu when he's been injured this season, to be honest. And him coming back has coincided. He was fantastic today, Dejan. He was absolutely brilliant, yeah. And Richarlison, you were talking about Richarlison earlier. He gave everything as well. He just he chases everything down. He makes things happen, and the goals will come for him. And he looks to be a great part of the squad as well. Even when he went off there, he's jumping up and down on the bench. When things are going on the pitch, and he's still playing an active part. And Conte's done a fantastic job. Really, he's only been there a year now, and I think we forget sort of where we was before he came. And we definitely didn't think we was going to qualify for the Champions League last year when he took over. We was miles behind. And he managed to achieve that with us. And then we've gone on this year. We had the great start. Was it our best ever Premier League start after 10 matches? Gone a little bit off the boil recently, but I think that's been down to injuries and tiredness. We've had all these Champions League games as well. We've won our Champions League group, which was pretty cool. So to be where we are at the moment and to be top of, into the Champions League next round, got the home tie second leg. And to be up there, I think I just saw on the screen a little bit, well, Newcastle have gone one up, but even if they win today, we're still up there, we're still fourth. And I don't think you can ask better for that, really, to be. It's like Conte says, he's going to need another window or two to really get the squad together. And I think if we stick with him and get him some of the players in, I think we really can go places. We just got to stick with him, Definitely.
You speak very highly of Conte, exactly like I do, John. What do you make of some of the Tottenham Hotspur fans, of their criticism of Antonio Conte, and some don't want him at the club?
Yeah, no, you've got to give him patience. He's a proven manager. You know, he's won everywhere where he's been. He just needs the right sort of, as he says, he needs patience. He needs the players to come in. He's going to need. Can't do it all in 1-2 windows. I mean, we bought quite a few players in the last 2 windows, to be honest, and they've all got to try and integrate. And I think they'll still be on the lookout for some more as well. And I think, you know, within sort of, you know, years, you know, hopefully next season, if he's still here, we'll push on and we'll have a good old go. I mean, we're doing okay this year, to be honest, but we've just got to see where we go. The only problem is this season is, you know, we've had a great start, but it's the other lot at the top of the league is just a little bit, you know, that's the worst thing for us. But, you know, but I think they'll tail off in the second part of the season anyway, I think.
Rich, let's come to you in the 83rd minute. Of course, Rodrigo Bentancur got Tottenham Hotspur's winner, making it 4-3. Great work from Kulusevski. The first time we took the lead in the game, actually, in the 83rd minute. And just minutes before, the Leeds United fans were so happy. They were all jumping up and down. It reminded me like a European club with their fans being so loud. The Leeds fans must have been absolutely gutted. But as John said earlier, it's just so nice to finish this part of the season going into the World Cup with 3 points.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And imagine going into the World Cup and that with that time frame, that negativity around the club, it's not productive at all. Yes, and the last 10-15 minutes prove that we've got the resilience within the team. You can see the togetherness within the team generally. Going back to what John was saying with some of the players that went off, that then kind of get really still into the game and they'll be celebrating with the goals as well as kind of really pushing on the team, which is really important to know that you've got that kind of camaraderie on the bench as well as on the pitch. We definitely need more players, more recruits, upskilling in some of those players that I've said in the past to get us through the season. I still think we've got lots of areas to improve. But one thing that teams do know, that we fight to the end. And I think Conte's kind of pre-season exploits with just running the arse off all the players has showed that yes, some of the players might have had some niggles from being pushed mentally as well as physically. But I also think the resilient side of taking into the games, and it showed with the last minute goals and the kind of really pressing, and whether it was at the Chelsea game where we were overrun but still got a point, or whether it was today. It's really important, you know, it's really important because it just shows when you've got everybody kind of running for the ball and pressing, it shows you kind of you're all bought into the philosophy and the mindset of the coach, because without that you haven't got winners on the pitch. And that then becomes really hard to actually win in games. And I think we went about it in the right way. I think obviously we knew that we weren't playing very well. We then obviously some of the key players like Bentancur, Kulusevski, Højbjerg, we just kind of go, come on guys, we're going to get an opportunity. We've got some real class up front. Somebody's going to get an opportunity at some point. Bentancur had that, took it. And it definitely does remind me of Moussa Dembele. But what I think the good thing about Bentancur is he's adding goals to his game as well, like John was saying, and Moussa didn't, and we always wanted him to. So have we got a better form of Moussa Dembele in the team? Let's hope so, because obviously he's young. He has obviously international experience as well as experience of playing in Italy at the highest one of the highest teams in Italy at Juventus. Coming over to Spurs, can he bring that? And also improve his game, which he can. I think he's only 24. For me, he is somebody that can really push us on in that centre of midfield. Somebody more creative alongside him would help. But I think today he was one of the reasons, and the reason we obviously won today.
I think it would actually be hard to take Bentancur and Højbjerg out of this starting 11 now. Now, just before we talk about the January transfer window, I just want to play you a 1-minute clip from Antonio Conte's press conference on Friday, talking about his contract.
Honestly, and until now we didn't speak, but for sure after the first part of the season, it's right to to have a meeting, to have a meeting with the club, and then to discuss about the positive things, about the negative things, and the way that we can improve. And then we'll see what we can do. You know very well that my contract expired in June, and 30 June, and I think that until that moment the club has to make the best evaluation also, and because I think everything you need to deserve, and for this reason it will be important to see and the rest of the season, what happened, and if we are happy about the improvement that we are doing.
Rick, let's come to you on that clip. When you watch that clip, do you think Antonio Conte is here for the long term, or are you worried that we might lose him at some point in the near future?
So ever since Conte has joined the club, I've said from the start, at one point he's going to go. All right. We know what he does. We know his record. Okay. Even at successful teams where he's won the league, he's left if something doesn't go his way. I think one of the greatest things about Conte when he came in is that he not only held the scouts to account, but he held the club and Daniel Levy to account. And I think that's where he uses his contract as poker cards, as a pair of aces in his hand. And he's basically like, if you continue to back your chat, if you continue to back me and continue to invest in the side and continue us to improve, then I think he'll be with us. I think he loves the club. I think he's getting enamored with the club. I think that Mr. Ventroni passing away and it brought some emotional connection to the club for him. You know, the club even planted an Italian oak tree at the training ground. Ventroni had so much influence, not only over the players, but he's been with Conte for years and years and years and years and years. So you can see that losing him definitely had an effect over not just Conte, but the team. But I think he does have that emotional connection. I do think he's trying to hold that board to account. And you got to remember, when he has held the board to account, they have delivered. The January transfer window, they brought in 2 players who we've just been lauding that came in and changed the side. We needed to improve the quality of the squad in the summer, which we've done. You know, we've brought in players that can, once they find their form and once they get a bit of rhythm, they can start stepping up and being a platform for this team to grow. We're not playing Lo Celso, Ndombele, Harry Winks. We're not playing these players that were in our squad that we had to play because we spent money on them. They have now been gone. They've been culled so that we can create the mentality and we can create a structure that can be a winning team, that can be a winning structure. Yes, we've had some problems, but you've got to, like John was saying there, you've got to remember the journey. The problems that we've had have been inherent in the side for for at least 3 years, but I'm going to say for like 4 seasons, 3 or 4 seasons, that the same problems have been there. I said under Mourinho, we was bloody well like Titanic FC. I've said it many a time. Under the Portuguese Christian Gross, you know, we was a shambles. We was all over the place. And since he came in, the marked improvement of the side has been fantastic. If you want to look at the Tottenham side that he created, look at last year when he had a lot of time on that training field, 4 to 5 days to prepare a game and to get those players firing. We were firing all over the park. All over the park. We was playing attacking football. We was playing threatening football. We were running over teams. We were scoring a lot of goals. And we all hoped and prayed with a pre-season and with a transfer window that we could kick on this year. It's been a bumpy ride. It has been a bumpy ride. But I do believe that with all of the things that we've been through as a club and him as manager, if the club continue to back him come January and he gets what he needs, then I think that he will stay with us. I think he will sign a new deal and I think that he'll be with us for a little bit longer. But with Conte, a contract doesn't matter. Yeah, I know for us it matters, and even for players in January that are coming in that want to work under him, it matters. It's important. But even if he had a 5-year contract, if things were going south come the summer and he started getting lied to, or he wasn't getting backed, or he wasn't getting what he was asking for, then we all know he's happy to just drop the contract, drop the club, and go about his business. I think the biggest difference between what Conte has done at other clubs and Tottenham is the amount of surgery that needs to be done at Tottenham. When he was at Juve, when he was at Inter, when he was at Chelsea, they all had a foundation of good, really, really good players in which he could then build on. And then we can look at the problems that happened in Inter. They brought in Hakimi, and then after one season, they wanted to sell Hakimi. That is going to send Conte crazy, right? But there's a lot more surgery to be done here than there have been at his previous clubs. And from everything that he said along the season, he wants to be the one to do it. He wants to be the one to use that money to build this squad and to turn us into a winning side. He's asked for patience, time and patience from all of us. And I think he's asked that for a reason, because he ain't done yet. He ain't even started yet. One of the key things that he said in his press conference was that he wants to deserve his contract. What does that mean? What does it mean? It means that he wants to achieve something where he's like, you know what? We're cooking. We're cooking with gas. We're going in the right direction. We've done something. We've lifted a trophy, or we've performed great, and we've had a great end to the season. At the business end of the season, let's continue this journey. And I think that's all he needs to see. That's all he wants to see. The improvement in the side, but the backing in January, and then the assurances of a backing in the summer, because this squad needs surgery. We ain't where we need to be right now, because like I said, the problems that we have been inherent for a long time, and it's taken a long time to get rid of those problems. And when it comes down to defending, sometimes when it comes down to being on the back foot, our default setting is to go back to those problems. It's to panic and go back to that style of thinking. So the more he's at the club, the more he's given, the more we back him, the more we roar him on and cheer the team on, the more he's going to want to be here and build something special. Because if he wins something at Tottenham, it'll be the biggest and best trophy that he's ever won anywhere, because of the history of us not winning, the history of us not achieving. So if he can do it somewhere like this, then all the rumors and all the kind of headlines are true about him. He is a serial winner, and he is a world-class manager, and he's going to show it to every single person at Tottenham Hotspur.
I'm with you, Rick, and I love your enthusiasm, but there's a lot of ifs. John, let's come to you. Now, Antonio Conte said there his contract ends on the 30th of June. As a Spurs fan, are you worried that the fact that he hasn't got his contract done and dusted? And thinking about it from the club's point of view, if Antonio Conte does not sign a new contract by the 1st of January, when the transfer window opens, do the club fully back him in the way that he wants to be backed for the end of the season and going forward by him not signing a new deal?
That is a tough one, because ideally, I think the club would want to know if he is staying before they release more funds. They gave him quite a substantial amount of money in the summer to spend. We spend that on, like Ricky said earlier, a few squad players, and we've beefed up our squad quite a lot. But on the way home, I was listening to him on the radio, and he was saying that, you know, Spurs are in the position they should be in at the moment. The teams that are above them have all had they've had money pumped in, but we've had money pumped in this year, so we're catching that up. But also the fact that those teams have had a manager in place for 2 to 3 years now, and he was labouring that point, the fact that, you know, that's why they're doing so well at the moment. So hopefully that's an indication that he is thinking that he's going to be here for a 2-3 year project as well. But like Ricky says, even if he is successful, sometimes he doesn't stay in a place too long as well. But I think he will stay. I think he will want to prove to carry on his success and prove what a top manager he is. Yeah. And we've all been wanting success for a long time, and if he can bring it, I mean, he will be a god, won't he? Our play.
With the direction that Antonio Conte wants to take the club, John, what would be successful for him, do you think, this season?
This season, it'd be good if we could win a trophy this season. That would be fantastic. But unfortunately, we got knocked out of the League Cup the other night, which was surprising. He did put out a very good team, actually. Surprised me. A lot of teams put virtually a complete reserve side out. We did put out a reasonably sort of first team, really. But fortunately, they just looked a bit leggy on the night, and we went out, which was a shame. But we're still in the Champions League. I think finishing in top 4 will be crucial again this season. I think maybe winning the league might be a bit beyond us this season, because I think even though Manchester City lost today, I still think they'll have quite a lot of points. They'll be above 90 points by the end of the season, probably. So they're the yardstick to sort of catch up in the Premier League. So, I've got the FA Cup to go for, but I think the best thing for us this season was just still finish in the top 4. And then go again in the summer, buy some more players, give him what he wants, and go again next season and have a real good go at maybe possibly the league next season.
Rich, let's come to you. Stephen writes now, Conte will sign. As Ricky rightly said, he is invested. I believe he has never had this foundation before. Do you think that Conte is happy? And do you think that he knows right this minute whether he's going to be Spurs boss next season, or is it all hinging on being backed in the January window?
Wow, it's a big question, right? I think obviously the reason why he's saying what he's saying is because he wants the board to back him as well. He needs to have the tools to be able to deliver. Has he got them at the moment? No, but he, like obviously fellow guests have said, he's also said that it's going to take him 2 or 3 windows to get the tools to be able to be successful. I think for me, it's really important that we understand that this is a process, and for other clubs, contracts don't really mean a great deal for him. And at any time, he could walk away from the club, whether he wins or not. I think the fans have had a big impact on him and his team. He feels part of something special moving forwards. Is that going to keep him at the club? I'm not really that sure. But what I am seeing is that he is definitely building something, and we need to persevere with the process, because having a manager like Conte, we've actually really bought into him and what he brings to the club, and that is hopefully trophies.
Hopefully, indeed. We've been waiting so long.
I know how many times you talk about trophies, Chris.
I haven't even brought trophies up today. I tell you what, I think I'm not even calmed down after Wednesday, because as John rightly said, we put a strong team out. Conte went for it. I was so disappointed on Wednesday, because I truly believe that was probably our best opportunity, most realistic opportunity of winning a trophy this season. That hurt. It hurt me on Wednesday. It really did. And I hate it when Spurs get dumped out of cup competitions, because I just hope, every year that it is our year. But it's not going to be the League Cup, unfortunately. Ricky, I said to you earlier I was going to ask the question about your great moment, or your favourite moment of this season so far, and the rating out of 10 for the season so far. What would you give it?
I would give the rating's a bit easier for me. And you've also got to remember what Dyer said. Decimal points is, that's professional league. Just going for whole numbers, it's amateur time. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to give them a 7.6 for the season so far. My best moment, I'm going to say it was the going through in the Marseille game. Because what a roller coaster that was this year. And I think it was vitally important that we got through. Even for the ribbon and the jokes and the banter and the gifts and all of the Twitter palaver from the other lot down the road, just for that alone. But for our fundamentals and for our future going forward, it was so important that we got those 3 points that night. And after the first half away against Marseille in that last game, I didn't have any belief in me at all that we was going to pull it round or pull it back or go on to win. But wow, we do have something in this side, and I know sometimes it takes going a goal down for them to start playing, and or being on the back foot before they go front. I just think that there's a lot more to come from this side. I know what he wants to bring to Tottenham. I've seen that the end of the season last year showed me a lot of what that 3-5-2, 3-4-3 can bring to us when it's all clicking it and going in the right direction. And, you know, I only see us like building on that, bro, from next year. So I think that, that Marseille game was the best result for me. And those goals that have got us through, it's got to be my highlight, I think. And Bentancur being Bentancur, oh my gosh. Wow. Just wow. Yeah,
I completely agree with you. The Marseille, that last minute winner was probably my favourite moment so far this season. I'd give Spurs a 7 out of 10 so far. I think to finish, to go into the World Cup in the top 4 in the Premier League and be in the last 16 of the Champions League, I think if you would have asked any Spurs fan at the start of the season, going into the World Cup, that's the position that we would be in, I think we'd all be happy. I know the performances haven't been fantastic, and a lot of these first half performances have been pretty poor, but I do think there's so much more to come from this team and this squad. And I think it's fantastic as well that during the World Cup, Antonio Conte will get the chance to work with a number of players not going to the World Cup. And we all know how he loves a pre-season and what he can do to transform a lot of the players' performances. John, let's come to you on the same question.
A few times. Actually, today was pretty cool when we scored the 4th goal. That was one of my favourite moments of the season, to be honest, because it was so key that we won this game today and finished on a high. We're going to have a month off now. So for the World Cup, we really needed to finish on a high, and the way they've been finishing the games, the Bournemouth game and also the Marseille game as well, with the last minute goals. That's just testament to the work that Ricky mentioned earlier, Mr. Ventroni put in at the beginning of the season. So we've had the tragic loss of him as well, which has rocked the club, and I think that's had a little bit of impact on the squad as well. But they're going to be playing for him as well, but you can see the hard work that they put in the summer is really, really paying off. Yeah, and I'd give them about a 7 out of 10 as well for the season so far. And like you said, Chris, if at the beginning of the season, if you said we'd be sort of 3rd or 4th and in with a shout still, in the league and also into the 2nd round of the Champions League, I think we'd all been quite happy with that, to be honest.
What about you, Rich?
So I'll go for Sonny's hat-trick against Leicester. Coming off the bench, for me, that was epic. Like, he came off the bench and I thought he'd played the game. Like I said, he did so much in that short space of time, and got man of the match. Awesome. And we weren't that great against Leicester. We beat them 6-2. So that was probably my favourite kind of moment so far, just because obviously the fans, like the elevation of noise when he scored his first goal, and then it's one after the other. They could have had 4, never mind 3. And that was just such a great game to watch, especially the second half. Now, number out of 10. So I think I'm right in saying that. So this first year is Conte's biggest points accumulation when he's been in charge. So with that, you probably can't go less than 7. Can I go any higher than 7? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I want to kind of say that it's an 8, because then I'll be saying that actually I've enjoyed the style of football and the results.
Ricky went with a 7.6.
Use the decimal, Rich. Use the decimal.
I can't, man. I can't. I need to give him a no. I need to give him a no for first half performances. So it's 7 flat, and the flat is the first half. Because some of the first half performances I've literally wanted to turn off, and I never do that. You know what I mean? You watch this shit in the first half and you go, "What the hell's going off?" But 7 flat, and I can't swear anymore because my daughter's just walked in.
Would it help you, Ricky, if I said a 7.1 then? Is that better?
Yeah, at least you're playing, bro. At least you're
playing.
Yeah.
We'll play the game. Let's come to you. We've been saying all show that we're going to come on to talk about the January transfer window. Now, various reports have stated that Antonio Conte has this shopping list. He wants a forward, he wants a midfielder, he wants a right wing back, he wants defenders. What is realistic in this January transfer window? Because as I said earlier, and as I think a lot of you guys have said it as well, Bentancur and Kulusevski in the last January transfer window transformed our season last season. We went from Europa Conference League football to playing Champions League football. Those two additions were absolutely fantastic. We all thought that we were getting Juventus rejects, but they have turned out to be two fantastic players for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. What is realistic for you, and what do you really think Antonio Conte desperately wants and needs, and is banging on the door of the board and saying this is a must in this window?
The must in this window is definitely a right wing back, and I think a striker as well, an attacker, so that he can rotate the front three. He can give Harry a rest, because we are going to get the backlash of the World Cup coming next year. There are going to be injuries. There are going to be people that are up and down with form. So he's definitely going to want that right wing back because of the system. It's all about the wing backs. And I think that he's definitely going to want some sort of forward stroke striker. If we can get in the midfielder there as well, why not? They've got a month to sort it out. They've got a month to scout. They've got a month to talk to the agents. You know, they've got time to do it. I think the only thing that's going to hurt us is our first options, because we can't take anything less than our first options, or Conte's first options. We can't take another one that's the second option or the third option, because he's probably going to go into the squad again, not be trusted 100%. And then, you know, what's going to happen? He's going to come on, they're going to be rusty, they're not going to perform, and then the crowd will get on the back and be like, why did we waste this money? So it's really important that they get their first options, or Conte gets his first options of who he wants. Now, if he can only get one player in and it's his first option, I will take it. I will take it, because that one player, if it's of the level of Decky or of Bentancur, then, oh my gosh, we're going to have a surge of energy. We're going to have a kind of a new side, a new team, and something that's new, dangerous to the opposition. Something that's going to inspire the team around them.
Did you see that comment in the comments, Ricky? That says Bentancur's 4 brothers and 2 sisters and his dog.
I'd have that. That'd do. That'd do. We'll stick the dog in goal. That'd do. Do you know what I mean? But no, it's all about the first option for me. So as long as he gets his first option in January, then I'm all with it. The one thing that we can't do is do 0 transfers, because there's so much surgery that needs to be done to this squad that and this is why Conte keeps saying it, in every transfer window, we have to improve. We have to move forward with the transfer window, and we can't afford mistakes. These are his words that we all know and that we've all said ourselves over a period of time. So this is why I think Conte is going to hold the board, Paratici, the scouts, to account again and go, get me what I need. We're in a great position. Do you want us to push on? Do you want us to push forward? Do you want us to achieve this year? Well, this is your opportunity. Do it right here, right now. Spend this money, because we can't go backwards. Because it might do, bro. What if we have this scenario next year where Sonny's out, Kane's out, Richie's out, and then what? And then what? You know, are we going to play Emerson Royal up front? I don't know. So we really do need to sort out what the positions that are really important to him and go for our first option. And as long as we do that, I'll be a happy guy.
John, it sounds like you've got the same views as me as the last January transfer window. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and it worked out fantastically well in the end for us. What is realistic for Conte this time? Because surely, I know we signed a lot of players in the summer window, but surely this coming January window has to be about real quality coming in again rather than quantity.
Yeah, it does, but it is a very, very tricky window to sign players in the January window. I mean, we did fantastic last year. To get those 2 players and the impact they had on the team was absolutely immense. You know, we've had some few players in January previous. You know, I think Michael Dawson came in January, didn't do too bad, did he? So it is possible to pick up these players in January, but it is a tricky window, which may be made even more difficult this season with the fact that the World Cup's going on as well. So it might be difficult to find players to negotiate, but I'm sure they've got their sort of targets, and I'm sure they're working on it now. And going back to whether we think Conte is going to stay or not, I think he wants to stay. I think he's just trying to put a little bit of pressure on to get people in that he wants. We've got Udogie that we signed as well. That's probably going to come in next season, hopefully. He's tearing up Serie A at the moment. He looks a good prospect as well. So it looks like they're planning for the future. But January is a difficult one to sort of try and get some signings over the board. But hopefully we will. They did get, as I say, we got a couple of brilliant ones last season. So fingers crossed. We do need, I think we need another player up front. Like Ricky said, definitely, because we was a bit like, if you're going to play 3 up front, we only really got 5 players really at the moment, and we've had a lot of trouble with injuries this season. I mean, Lucas has been out virtually all season, and now Sonny's out, Richarlison's been out as well. So Kane is looking really tired at the moment as he's had to play every game. So we could do with another forward type player. But I'm sure they know all this and they'll be on the lookout for someone. But hopefully a couple of people in January would be good, and then go again next summer, hopefully.
Rich, out of who started the game today, the starting 11, Lloris, Royal, Perisic, Dyer, Lenglet, Davies, Bentancur, Højbjerg, Kulusevski, Richarlison and Kane, who would you like to replace in that team?
Why do you ask me these stupid questions, man?
What's your stupid question?
Because you know the answer already. You know the answer already. So obviously Emerson, right? You're such a... I don't want to be hating on Emerson, but you're always kind of digging me a hole, man. So
okay, let me put it another way. Where in the team can we improve?
Okay. Clearly, obviously, those wing backs need to improve. I'll just say defence. Let's just say defence. Let's make it more generic. Let's just all say more generic. I agree with John. We need somebody up front to support, obviously, the workload that the front players are getting. But I think defensively we need to improve. It's clear that we need to improve in that department. I think quality is really important. We can't just be buying people for the sake of it. I think we still need that Eriksen replacement, which we've never had. Are we gonna get a Maddison? I think Maddison might be a good kind of option, but if he has a good World Cup, I don't think he'll come to Spurs. But we need to think about how do we keep improving that squad. Last January we did with the 2 acquisitions that went straight into the team. We can't just be kind of always going, well, this player might improve us in 3 or 4 seasons' time, or this player is somebody for the future. I think Conte's a here and now kind of guy, so that's why he's wanting to kind of really improve the squad now. I think defensively we need to look. I think Bastoni, if he would have come in, I think he would have really improved that stability at the back, especially through these kind of really difficult times. That didn't happen. Whether we can kind of ignite that interest, hopefully. I think he's had a little bit of an up and down season with obviously his team now, but he shows real quality on the ball that we obviously lack. Defensive, and also, are we still looking for like a Hugo replacement, or would that be started to kind of look into next year? I think that's question still something that crops up after 3 or 4 kind of iffy games.
The summer, I would have thought, and I read a report somewhere stating that Spurs were interested in signing the Leeds goalkeeper Meslier. Rich, if it was 2 signings in the January transfer window, what are the absolute key areas where you think Conte would look? Would it be a right wing back and a centre back, would you say? Or, a lot of you are saying about creative midfielders. I'm not so sure where a creative midfielder fits in this system that Conte likes to play. But if it was only 2 signings in January, would it be a centre back and a right wing back for you?
If the right players come on the market, for sure. I think, and I've said this before, that away from home, playing 3 up front is a bit too much. I think 2 up top with an extra midfielder. I know it's not worked every time, but I think that's where you utilise that creative midfielder, I believe. instead of having somebody like Richie just kind of drop in and take that extra position in midfield. You actually have somebody that plays that midfield role naturally. So if you're saying 2, but if you're greedy and say 3, I'd say attacking midfielder, centre back, and right wing back. Sessegnon and Perisic. That's not really kind of lit the fire on every game yet, but it's not one of those key areas that we need to address straight away.
Yeah, it was interesting as well how Antonio Conte said that he thinks that Sessegnon is a very reliable player for Premier League and Champions League matches, which I thought was interesting.
Well,
Ricky, let's come to you. Djed Spence, the lack of game time for Djed Spence. Would you be surprised if Spurs let him out on loan in January?
I'd be disappointed. I'd be devastated. You know, he might have been a club signing, but Conte did sign off on it, and he was scouted and picked out and pointed out as a perfect right wing back for a Conte system. So if they let him go out on loan next year, I will be disappointed, really, and I'll be devastated for the lad, because there was a lot of teams that were in for him at the time, and I don't know how, but he chose Tottenham, and he chose Tottenham from, I think it was from last January, just after that January transfer period. So, you know, I think there's a lot in him. I think he in a small amount of time that I've seen him, I think he offers more than both the right wing backs that we've got at the moment. And the only thing that would be a good thing is that he'd get game time, and he'd get a run of games, so that hopefully, fingers crossed, he can come back next year and then kick on. But I think we should use him, and even if he goes and buys a right wing back, I would sell the 2 that we've got and make Spence the number 2 right wing back, and then have Conte's number 1 right back and have them 2 play. Because think about it, just seeing Spence's pace, for instance, him and Kulu on that right hand side, that's devastating right there. Just pace alone is going to frighten teams. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I would be upset if he went on loan in January, and I would really hope that he gets some more game time come next year. And this period of time would have been useful then, because he would have learned the Conte way, he would have learned the system, he would have learned what requirements that he needs to be in this system. So then why would you do all that for this amount of time? He's also going to have him for the World Cup period of time. So again, like you were saying there, training and a mini preseason going on. So why wouldn't you keep him and use him for next year? That would be like a proper kind of mind blown option or thing to do right now. And you know, we can ask John as well. Like I kind of see him being a future England player, international, and hopefully he's in your next book. Do you know what I mean? Come volume 2, he'll be in the next book wearing a Spurs shirt and an England jersey all at the same time. Do you know what I mean? So, well,
let's come to you on that same question, John, because surely if it's going to help anybody out this break with Antonio Conte at Hotspur Way, it should help Djed Spence out. And I said on a podcast the other day that if Djed Spence is not featuring in that Brentford game when we come back on Boxing Day, then surely he's got to be getting some game time somewhere else just to get game time. Because back in the day, you know, you used to have the reserves where if you weren't in the first team, you'd play in a reserve game, you would get that match fitness, you'd get game time. But of course, it's not like that anymore. So if Conte doesn't choose him at the end of December / January, would you be surprised to see him go out on loan?
I'd be disappointed if he went out on loan. I think he should be given a go, really. Let's see what he can do. You know, he looks like he's got a lot of pace, got a lot of skill. So let's see him play. But it's disappointing he hasn't played so far. But if he's not going to play, if Mr. Conte is not going to pick him, then maybe we should send him out on loan somewhere and to see what he can do there. You know, just so that we can get an idea of what he can do. You know, maybe I don't know if that's into the Premier League or the Champions. I think he's proven at the Championship level, isn't he? I don't think he really needs to go back down to the Championship. No. But maybe we could see what he could do with another Premier League side. I don't know. Or I suppose it all depends on what's going to happen in the January transfer window and what they decide to do, you know? Like Ricky said, they might decide to move some people on and he might be elevated up to another position, sort of to be the reserve right back or whatever. It's all going to depend on what happens in January and also, you know, and whether they actually want to give him a go. I think he deserves a go anyway. Yeah, he looks a quality player, to be honest.
Right, I've got 2 questions left. We'll make this quick. The World Cup, of course, is coming up very, very soon. John, let's start with you. What do you make of the World Cup at this time, and who do you think will win it?
Right. Okay. So it is a funny time for the World Cup, isn't it? It does seem a bit weird. It doesn't seem like it's sort of just crept up on us. There hasn't been a lot of adverts or anything for it, and it's like it's not really happening, to be honest. But I'm sure once it all starts next week, we'll all be into it. England are not really. They're not really in great form, are they? England, to be honest. Let's be honest. They haven't. I think they've gone a few games without scoring goals as well. But I know it's World Cup's a little bit different. They might pull some form out. But I'll
tell you what, John. Based on form, can you imagine Maguire and Dyer at the back?
Yeah, the form's not great at the moment. The actual England form's not great as well. I mean, I think they got relegated from the Nations League, didn't they? And they lost twice to Hungary. And yeah, so they're in poor form, but sometimes that can all turn around in a tournament. So, you know, they've got, I wouldn't say, it seems to be an easy enough group. They should get out of the group. If they don't deserve to get out of the group, then they deserve to come home, to be honest. Got a tricky game against Wales. America's a tricky game as well. Should beat Iran, I suppose. But, yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, my favourites, I think the team to look out for is Argentina.
Rick, same question for you. You're on mute, Rick.
First time ever. No, I think it's a really weird time for it to happen. Like John was saying there ain't really no hype around it, and it's just really weird. I'm more worried about our boys getting injured out there than I am about England winning the World Cup, for instance. It would be great if they could do it. But I'm more worried about our players out there, man. And because we've got they have no rest time whatsoever as soon as the tournament finishes. And then they've got to go straight back into the Premiership. We're just flogging these players. And Conte said it the other day when he spoke about welfare, the welfare of the player. That's totally out the window. It's like you're getting paid astronomically. Get on and do it. And I think it's going to be tough, mate. I think it's going to be tough. But my pick for the tournament is probably going to be France. They've got Tchouaméni in midfield, Camavinga, Mbappe, and as well as everything else that they've got. I think they've got like an abundance of riches. And if they were to win it, then Hugo would be the one to lift the old World Cup again. So, you know, at least he's lifting one trophy at least this season. Hopefully it's not the only one.
What about you, Rich? Do you think England have got a chance?
I keep you happy and say yes, because I know that you want to see an English trophy from either England or Tottenham this season, and obviously because we've been kicked out of one competition already, I'd say England have got a good chance of progressing from the group, like John was saying. I think rotations are going to be key with the team again. We're going to have to utilise all players in all departments. I think Callum Wilson might actually play a couple of games, to be honest. I think Harry might not necessarily play every minute of every game. I think it's always been in the past that he's in those major tournaments. He has done that, but maybe that's not the case this time because the sheer workload he's had pre the tournament, and obviously it's only 8 days until it starts. I would say my pick. Brazil. I'd go Brazil. Let's go Brazil. I like Argentina. I think they've play a different game now, and I think they really utilise Messi within the team. He's obviously scored plenty of goals, but against pub teams recently, so not not the high quality that he's going to face in the World Cup. But I think obviously a confident Messi is always going to be dangerous for any team. And like Ricky was saying, obviously France have got an abundance of young, talented players. But yeah, I'll go for, I don't know, I'll go for maybe a Brazil this time, and hopefully England get to the semi-finals, and then anything can happen there, right? I think Germany are always dangerous, but I think they've got a lack of experience within the team, which might be their downfall in some of those knockout games.
It's interesting actually, because a number of ex-Spurs players are going to the World Cup, including Nkudu. Vincent Janssen is going to the World Cup with the Netherlands. Of course, Steven Bergwijn's there as well. Lots of ex-Spurs players there. Rich, you know the last question. You know what's coming, don't you? Where do you think Spurs will finish at the end of this season?
Mate, I'm going to make it short and sweet. And I always say that we want to improve. So I'd love him to finish third. Do we deserve to be above behind two other teams in the league? No, because that's going to be, I think, Man City and Arsenal. I think Newcastle are going to be pushing this year. I still think Liverpool are going to be strong. Yeah, let's go third. I go optimistically third with some reinforcements in January. That's me.
What do you reckon, John?
Third or fourth. You got to remember, at the moment we're above Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United. So it's not been a bad season. It started off really well, tailed off a little bit recently, but the win today was good, and I think we can stay in the top four. Like Richard said, a couple of signings in January as well would be nice. Keep us up there, and let's try and have a go at trying to win the FA Cup this season. It's been a long time since we won the FA Cup. Yeah. I think we deserve to win it again.
1991. Don't get me started, John. I tell you, the lack of trophies is just unbelievable. I would just love. There is nothing more I'd love to see than that bus parading down the high road. The likes of Lloris and Harry Kane and Sonny all lifting a trophy, because of course they haven't won anything at Spurs yet. Yeah, far too long.
And those guys deserve it as well. They've been brilliant players for us over the last sort of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, whatever. They do deserve to win something. Yeah, I mean, you've got to remember, Conte's building something now, hopefully, and it's not going to take 5 minutes. It's going to take possibly another season, this season, and then maybe next year really push on. Remember, Poch's team took a couple of years to really get going as well, and I think they are building, hopefully, and I think he'll stay. To be honest, yeah.
Fingers crossed. Rick, where do you reckon? I'm going to go with fourth, by the way. I'm going to go with fourth. If we have a good transfer window, you never know what can happen. And of course, if Conte ends up staying, I'm with John. He can make this club very successful. It's been a good 12 months results-wise. What do you think?
I'm saying top three. And the reason I'll say that is because the first half of the season, we haven't really got out of first gear. We might have slipped into second, but there's a lot more to come from this side. And I think once we get to the business end of the season, this is where Conte and a Conte side flourish. So that's my hopes, and that's what I'm praying for. And like Rich said there, with a couple of reinforcements in January, I see him kicking on. So I'm going to say top three.
Well, Ricky, thanks so much for joining me this evening, and tell everyone where they can find you on social media, and when is the Panto starting, and where can people buy tickets?
Right. You guys know where you can find me. You can find me on Twitter at Ricky J Norwood, and then on Insta it's official Ricky Norwood. Panto starts 9th of December, running till the 31st. We're going to be at the Princess Theatre in Torquay. You can get your tickets at atgtickets.com. So come down. Tickets start from 12, 13 quid. So come down, enjoy, get your Christmas cheer on.
Well, Rick, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you back. And Richard, tell everyone where they can find you, what you're up to, and when's the next marathon?
Well, I'm definitely going to be at home for the next month. Well, definitely not running marathons anyway. I've done 2 in the last 4 weeks, so my body's a bit knackered. So I need anybody that's in Nottingham wants to buy me a beer, I'll be in the local Witherspoons at a specially formed stall that says Richard's drinks here, because I'll be there all month. No, so just training for next year. I'll be doing London again, but this time in April, because it moves back to April next year. I need to kind of just fix up a little bit and not just plod around a marathon, actually go for a time this time. And yeah, I'm supporting my foundation, Richard Wyatt Foundation, that provides a lot of great support for community initiatives for people with disabilities as well as disabled people as well. So I'm doing a lot of work around December and January for my foundation.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for coming back, Rich. And John, it's been a pleasure having you back, and tell everyone where they can find your new book, how people can find it, what it costs, and what can people expect from it.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Chris. As you can see, it's a very big book, a very thick book as well. It's over 400 pages. There is virtually a colour picture on virtually every page. There's a profile on every single player that's played for it. and it's available from Legends Publishing and also on Amazon. And you can contact me on Lions Tottenham on Twitter if anyone wants to. And so it's a great Christmas present for any discerning Spurs fan.
Well, John, thanks so much for coming back. It's been a pleasure having you back on, particularly after talking about a win, which, of course, we've all got a smile on our face because Tottenham Hotspur have won. Ricky, Richard and John, thanks so much for your time, and thanks to everybody who has watched this and listened to it back. I'll be back with another Spurs Chat podcast on Tuesday evening, where I've got journalist George Sessions on from the Press Association, where I'll be quizzing him about the January transfer window and, of course, reviewing Tottenham's season so far. Thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks for listening, and thanks for all of your support. Until the next one, come on, you Spurs.
Come on!
Thank you.